Hey, vinyl community, Richard S. back with the third installment of the overview of Shoegaze and Dreampop. We've already covered in part one, we talked mostly about the Dreampop, the ethereal side of Shoegaze, and the more quiet side of groups like Cocteau Twins and some of Slow Dive kind of fits into the Dreampop element. Then we talked in part two about classic shoegaze bands from the 80s into the 90s. My Bloody Valentine, um, Jesus and Mary Chain, who, by the way, have a new album out this year. I don't have it. Maybe I should get it. All of the bands that kind of formed that whole foundation of the noisy reverb, tremolo, looking at your shoes while you're playing, really loud, sensory overwhelming type stuff, that wall of sound that I really love. Um, Interestingly, going into uh, after the year 2000 into the millennium, we have a whole new rise of shoegaze and dream pop bands, and that is what part three is about. So I want to talk about some of the not just up and coming, but now some of them are 20 years established in their respective band and are doing fantastic. There are some great shoegaze and dream pop bands around the world. So let's get started. First one that came to mind, I actually go alphabetically. So let's talk about A Place to Bury Strangers. These guys are out of New York, I believe, and noisy, but fascinating. This may be the second loudest concert I've ever been to. They opened for a band called The Joy Formidable, who were kind of on the dream poppy side, and I watched the audience literally back up from the stage from the assault. I've seen these guys twice. They are fantastic. It's just a threesome, I believe, and the lead singer guitarist is like doing a Pete Townsend smashing the instruments type thing. Auditorily overwhelming but fascinating too. So, A Place to Bury Strangers. They have several albums out. Exploding Head was their first one. This is their later EP. And they have a new album coming out pretty soon called Synthesizer, which is a really interesting package. I'll be checking that one out when it drops. Um, they also have this album, which has light die cutout eyes in here. I think these pretty cool. Um, See Through You was, I believe, their second album. Don't mark me on that. Asobi Sexu. I was going to look this up before I went on, and I forgot to. I know that the lead singer is Japanese. These guys broke up several years ago. I did see them here in Denver in a very small place called the High Dive. Not an auditory, overwhelming kind of band, but I remember the vocals are kind of very sing-songy, and there's a lot of busy guitar work and fuzz behind. This is their classic album called Citrus. Yeah, I know this is a reissue. I was excited to see this several years ago, and I was like, yes, please, I'm buying this because I played the heck out of the CD. So, Sobisetsu. Let's put these the right direction so I can put them away, too. Out of the UK, Bedroom, BDRMM. I love these guys. They're starting to kind of go away from the shoegaze, or at least do more of electronica infused version of it. But their first album set my world on fire when I first started hearing their early EPs that were coming out, and they were snapping them up on Bandcamp really fast. Their stuff sells out really quick. So, Bedroom out of the UK is another newer shoegaze act. Out of, I'm not going to say Australia. It can't be right. I want to say they're from the East Coast. I could be or West Coast. One of these two. These are, I can't remember the name. Yeah, I can. The Black Rider. Two albums. I don't think they've done any more. They're a duo. Beautiful album. This album and their follow up to this called Old Eyes. The Door Behind the Door. So, this album, from the Black Rider, early 2000s, maybe 2008, I think, but fascinating shoegaze from Black Rider. Out of Russia. I guess we are truly going around the world here. Probably one of my favorite bands in shoegaze resurgence, and they're called Blankenberge. The German translation of two words is Bear Mountains. This is their first album, Radio Gaze, which has been, still is incredibly hard to get a hold of. But a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful album. I would call their sound kind of quintessential shoegaze with that ethereal touch. Great music to just chill to and just be, let the sound wash over you. I absolutely love this album. And their follow-up to that was More. They put out a more recent one a couple of years ago, and that can come highly recommended too. Oh, I do have it. It's Everything. So 3 albums. Look up Blankenberge. It is not Blankenberge. I think I learned that on YouTube. Probably. I wasn't calling them that. British band, Cheetahs. Sadly, they're not around anymore. I absolutely love these guys. This is their debut album. Came out in the early 2000s, maybe 2008. I saw these guys open for another band I'm going to talk about in a minute called Eagles, and thoroughly impressed. This is just thoroughly enjoyable wall of sound type thing. I could listen to this on repeat. They have another EP that I think I only have on CD. Excellent. Cheetahs, spelling Cheat, like don't cheat. Cheetahs is... this is a fantastic album. Love it, love it, love it. Alright, what else? So many to talk about. Day Sleepers out of New York, I believe. I believe these are a band that kind of went, and came back. We'll talk about some of those too. Drowned in, Drowned in a Sea of Sound. I think there's a podcast or another channel that calls that does a lot of audio streaming of Shoegaze and Dreampop. Yep, the album is very much the floaty thing depicted on the cover here. So just beautiful stuff from the Day Sleepers. They have a newer one I just got that's a bit of a departure from traditional shoegaze. Daywave. I think this is maybe one of the first people I discovered on Bandcamp when it first got really into Bandcamp. I love this one. This Daywave is actually one guy doing this, and then he gets backup people to support him when he plays live. This is pretty much some traditional shoegaze music, but his later stuff is starting to veer into that more electronica thing and less Shoegaze and Dreampop, so I'm kind of going off of them. But this first one, called Headcase / hard to read. It is hard to read. I think this is a combined 2 EPs in one album situation. Gorgeous stuff from Daywave. Let's go to Australia with Death Cult. I loved this album when I first heard it. Downloaded it, bought the CD, finally got the album because it took me some time to find this. These guys are out of Australia. They are another band that's kind of started using the shoegaze sound to build a platform for their act, and have since melded into a little bit more of alternative stuff without the wall of sound. But I absolutely love what they did with this album. And that cover art is just spectacular. Love it. Death Cult out of Australia. How about some noisier shoegaze? This is a group called the December Sound. One of my earlier finds when I was getting back into kind of like what's going on in shoegaze in the early 2000s. I want to say this came out in 2004. It is just called the Silver Album. I believe the vinyl is actually silver. Super in your face. The sort of sound wave thing going on here kind of gives you a sense that it's a pretty fuzzy album, and it is. It's good wall of sound shoegaze stuff from the December Sound. These guys have become a classic, or early frontrunner classic of the new gazers, if you will. Dive. I've seen these guys a couple of times. They put on an amazing show. Dive are out of New York. This is their debut album, Ocean. It is very much kind of set a tone for what they have continued to do. They keep expanding musically, but at the base of it, is very nice. Not sludgy shoegaze. That's another one later. But I absolutely love every single album Dive has put out so far, and they're well worth it. If they come to your area, go see them in concert because they are tremendous. Deer Hunter, I consider shoegaze. Some others might just say it's alt with a bit of a bend. Lockett Punt and Brandon Cox and friends doing one of their many different little projects. Love this album. This is Microcastle. I think not their first album. I think that was Cryptograms. And the follow-up after this one, it's eluding my mind. Black and white cover one. Halcyon Days. Oh my god, I love that album. So Deer Hunter, Rock My World, in that shoegaze spectrum of music. Fantastic stuff. Check them out. Slightly more obscure band, also out of New York. This is the Depreciation Guild. First album called, oh my goodness, In Her Gentle Jaws, in all one word. Love the sort of dead screen, reminiscent of old TV days. More on the ethereal side, the more ambient side of shoegaze, but not quite dream poppy. This album celebrated its 10th anniversary on a record store day, and I managed to get this. I think there was only 200 of them pressed, but it was pretty findable on CD or at least in download. The Depreciation Guild. Remember I said I saw a band that opened for the Eagles? These are the Eagles. I prefer their second album over their first album, for reasons I'll go into real fast. So Cheetahs opened for Eagles. Eagles are kind of a mixed bag for me shoegaze. Not a fan of the lead singer's voice. As far as the way he sings, he's just kind of in your face and spitting lyrics, while his band is making this amazing guitar tone, rich. There's a lot going on and it's fascinating, and then his voice just doesn't work for me with the band. When I saw them, 5 songs into their set, the lead singer walked off the stage, the bassist took over, and I thought that was infinitely better. Go figure. I don't think Eagles are around anymore. They called it a day a few years ago with only 2 albums that they put out. This is their debut, isn't it? I think it is. This is, I can't read that, it's too small. It's Ullages, Ullages. This is their second album. Their first one has like a car or a bus or something on the cover. Yeah, I like this one better than their first album for sure. But Eagles were a band. Engineers are out of the UK. That's a Music on Vinyl reissue that came out a couple of years ago that I was ecstatic for it to come out on vinyl because I've had it on CD since forever. This is their first album, and it is flat up called Engineers. An album after, it was either their second or third album, called 3 Factor Fade, I love, and I really want that album to come out on vinyl too, but it hasn't yet. Engineers, beautiful, very low-key, mellow, but also shoegaze, very much. Love this album. Engineers. Who else we have down here? How about the Fawns? I believe they're from England. Fawns, a little bit more dream pop in my opinion. They have a couple of albums out. Both of them are pretty good. So the Fawns more on the dream pop. Again, that wonderful ethereal ebb and flow, water floaty music that I love so much. So Fawns are another of the NuGaze dream pop world. As our film school, I remember hearing rumblings about this band early after I kind of moved back to Denver. So I've listened to it and I went, I really like this because it had that shoegaze feel. I don't know if I would actually call them shoegaze though. This is their debut album. They've done several albums. They are still making albums that are getting a little bit more musically and more complex musically. That's the word I want. And they're still touring. So film school, interesting and fascinating. I love these guys. These are Fleeting Joys. They're out of California for some reason. I could only source their records from New Zealand or Australia or somewhere. And it was not easy, but it was rewarded plenty. Absolutely love their first two albums. This is Despondent Transponder. More in your face shoegaze, wall of sound, tremolo, hushy vocals, buried stuff. Love this stuff. This is a fantastic album. Came out 2000. This is a reissue for 2020, so it's at least 5 years old. They can give it another 2 or 3 years before that when the CD first came out. Flying Colors out of New Zealand, Australia, somewhere down in that part of the world. This is very much what I call the hazy, tremolo-driven, pitch-bending, wall of sound stuff. This is their Roy G. Biv EP. They have a couple. They just released a combination of a couple of EPs onto one album that's well worth hunting down. Flying Colors, not to be confused with the other Flying Colors, as it says, 2 Y's and the English spelling of colors. Love them. Love these guys too. They've come a long way. This is Nothing. Guilty of Everything. Is this their first album? Can't remember. Their sound has evolved to be really sort of buried. How to describe them? It's just kind of an ambient, droney, fascinating. I absolutely love Nothing. Their albums have just gotten better and better. I was not a huge fan of this one when it first came out, but by the time Tired of Tomorrow came out, I was a huge fan. They've done, and even I think I do have the follow-up album to that because The Great Dismal was probably my favorite album by Nothing. Nothing were kind of a companion band to the last band I'll talk about called Whir. Whir had kind of an interesting reputation in the music world for some stuff they probably shouldn't have done on social media, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I've mentioned these guys before on my favorite UK bands, Ocean Size with Mike Van Aert, who does solo work now as Van Aert. Great stuff. This was his first project. I saw these guys when I was in England and absolutely loved their wall of... They definitely have a huge wall of sound because I want to say they had 3 guitarists and the drums, and it was just music overload. Borders very much on prog rock. So prog fans out there, you might really enjoy Ocean Size quite a lot. They're reissuing their Frames album from early 2000s pretty soon. I have it on pre-order already. Let's go back to Russia. This is Pink Shiny Ultra Blast. I'm wishing I could find their debut EP that came out on a 10-inch in Record Store Day in England and sold out instantly. It commands stupid money. But this is Everything Else Matters from Pink Shiny Ultra Blast. Super shoegaze. Not the hushy vocals type too much, but melodic. I like these guys a lot. And it seems Russia's becoming kind of a place where some interesting things happening, not just politically, but also musically. I can't tell you enough about these guys. Ringo Death Star. I remember I heard this album. This album took me forever to get on vinyl, by the way, because it was on like a pledge drive thing. Prepaid. I think it took me 2.5 years to get this album, but it finally showed up. Um, Imagine Hearts is on my recommended songs playlist. In Your Face Shoegaze sounds like a My Bloody Valentine clone for their first album. They've started to evolve to make their own sound. I'm trying to think about. Yes, I do. They did a self-titled album. Is this through? This was through the Reverberation Society. I want to say they're on polyvinyl. But they're a self-titled album they put out several years ago. This is a masterpiece as well. But this is like they're sort of, let's get into shoegaze to show what we could do. We sound like My Bloody Valentine, and they did. And now they have more of their own shoegaze sound, which is fantastic. A few more. Spotlight Kid. I can't remember where these guys come from, but they're another band I discovered on Bandcamp. Had to get their stuff, had the CD for the longest time, and it's one of those albums that I could just play straight through on repeat. Just gorgeous album. Spotlight Kid, the album is called 10,000 Hours. Took me some time to find this on vinyl, but I did. Sometimes it's worth the hunt, you know? Alright, I think I mentioned Tokyo Shoegazer out of Japan. Probably one of my quintessential favorite of the Asian shoegazers. They're pretty in your face. They're another band that kind of disappeared and came back again. This is their crystallized? Yeah, crystallized album reissue. The CD has a different cover. They have a new one called Moon World Playground that's only out on CD. Equally fascinating and well worth hunting down. So check out Tokyo Shoegazer out of Japan. We're almost there. Twilight Sad. Why do I bring up Twilight Sad? Because they're more like The Cure. They're just watching their guitarist on stage when he's just like pitch bending and just doing effects at the yin yang behind James Graham's vocals. It is stunning just to see what these guys are doing musically, vocally, lyrically, the whole package. These guys take you on a trip musically. I love the Twilight Sad, and they are out of Scotland. This is their debut album, 14 Autumns and 15 Winters, and they have a fairly extensive catalog, but well worth checking out the Twilight Sad. Whimsical. I sent an Instagram message to Chrissy, the lead singer for this one. I love this guy. These very much dream pop. I think Nick Berkdahl is the guitarist. So they're a duo that put out a lot of sound on really, really beautiful albums in the very dream pop vein, but Nick is like wailing away on his guitar too. I think Chrissy was doing all the lyrics for the album, but this is Whimsical's second album? Bright Smiles, Broken Hearts. This was on repeat for me when it came out. So pretty. So do look up Whimsical and see if they might be something you would be interested in. Last one, folks. We made it to the end of the alphabet. Were were one of the first bands I kind of got into when I was getting back into the revivalist of shoegaze. Pretty controversial, these guys, because they got into a lot of trouble on social media saying some pretty nasty things about the trans community. Yeah, so some members of Were also played in Nothing, so I think they kind of went back and forth. But Distressor is a great little EP. It's almost a full-length album on the Graveface label. We have another album called Pipe Dream, which is really good too. But have been the revivalists of shoegaze. Whew! Breathe. That was a lot. And I'm sure there's more. I even have albums on order that I haven't got yet that I wanted to put in this video, but they're not coming. Thank you so much for tagging along for this history of shoegaze, present, future, classics, dream pop, hardcore shoegaze, and everything in between. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Talk to me about what your thoughts are on this whole genre. There are so many bands that would kind of fit under the umbrella in some way, shape, or form that might be considered alt but not shoegaze, or not, might be considered pop and not dream pop. It just goes all over the place. So we will talk to you soon, and we'll move back into some other maybe deep cuts of different bands and some more take fives that I've sort of tentatively planned. All right? Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.